Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Isabel, the Starlight Witch, and today I am going to tell you all about my shenanigans of February. I want to talk about books and crafts and my favorite decks and everything that I used during this month. So, I had a pretty, how to describe it? I think it was pretty hectic in ways and pretty quiet in others. I have been creating a lot of content for both of my channels again, and I'm very happy to be back on track in that sense. But otherwise, it has been notoriously slow, and some things that I wish would progress in my personal life are kind of stagnant at the moment, and it seems like they're going to be that way for a while. I'm sorry if you can hear my cats chewing, eating, or using their little box because we are sharing the space in here, so there might be a little noise. And you know how it is when you have cats, they have to do all of their things once you hit the record button. So, yeah, let's have a look at the books that I read this month. If you saw my January um, favorites, my wrap up, then you've already seen my planner. This month, there isn't going to be a journal look through because um, I didn't actually use my journal at all. I sometimes tend to struggle with keeping up with journaling, um, both because I was busier and whenever I get very busy, those things kind of feel like chores, and sometimes I have to drop those more elaborate things in my routines just so I can do everything that needs doing. And yeah, my journal completely fell through the haywire this time, and I want to go back to it in March, but when I tell you that I didn't even open it in the month of February, that is summarizing it a lot. And also because my ADHD brain just has the hardest time trying to keep up with certain routines and certain things, and it always happens that I keep up with it for a couple weeks and then I drop it for another 2 weeks and then it becomes a cycle. But I didn't actually touch it throughout the whole month of February, and that makes me very sad because I do love keeping my journal. However, it was an excellent reading month for me. 8 books, and all in audio. These are all audiobooks. And I think that one of the reasons why I managed to read so many books despite being so busy, not only it's because the audiobook format makes it easy for me to listen to them while I'm doing other things, but also because so many of these books were great that I finished a few of them in one go. Like I couldn't stop listening. Whenever possible, I needed to um, change some of the activities that I was doing just so I could keep listening to it. So if I had to do something that required to pay full attention to it, so I couldn't be listening to a book, then I would just try not to do that on that day whenever possible. So there are several books in here that I binged in a single day. So it was a blessed book for sorry, a blessed month for books for me. It was absolutely amazing. My first book of February was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Metter. I'm kind of sure that I totally butched her last name. I'm very sorry about that. But this was an excellent book. I heard through the grapevine, social media and stuff, although I don't have TikTok, um, that there was a huge hype for this book. Everyone was talking about it, everyone was loving it. So, months ago, I put a hold on it on my library and it became available in February. So, I listened to it and I'm obsessed. When I tell you I'm obsessed, it's become my identity for most of the month of February. It's amazing. This is a series. As you can see, I've already flew by three different books. There is a fourth one that's coming out in August this year. I'm not sure if that's going to be the last book, though I've heard that there is another book after that which might come out next year. So I'm going to suffer all the way until August, and then I'm going to suffer for probably another year if it is true that there is another book in this series. But this was absolutely fantastic. It was hilarious first and foremost, and of course, this is about a girl called Evie, and she is the sole provider for her family, which at the moment consists of her dad and her little sister. And she just recently found herself without a job. And then she is walking home from a job fair through these woods that are usually talked about as very dangerous. And she runs. Well, she has an accidental and very disastrous meeting with the villain. So, this guy is basically the bad guy of the kingdom. This is fantasy, of course, romantasy, I would say, but more on the cozy side. However, it's so good, believe me. I am terrible. I have found out during these monthly wrap up videos that I tend to be terrible at describing books and telling you why I love them, but I'm going to try anyway. Um, but this is just fantastic. She just meets the villain in the woods and he offers her a job as his assistant. And so she is, this has that grumpy and sunshine kind of trope. Obviously, he's the grump, she's the sunshine, and this novel is absolutely hilarious. I laughed so much. It was uncanny. I loved all the characters. There is a frog here that goes around with a ring, well, with a crown on top of his head, and he actually understands human speech. His name is Kingsley, and he he talks to people with these chalkboards that he has and that his friends have for him all over the place, and he just jots words on those chalkboards, and he's the villain's best friend. And there were so many absolutely hilarious shenanigans in this thing that I got obsessed. I was so obsessed. I didn't see the big twist at the end coming on this one, which I'm usually pretty good at anticipating these changes, but I couldn't see it coming on these ones, so top notch. Seriously, so good. After that, I was so absolutely obsessed that I couldn't get myself to read anything other than. So I bought copy number two because the hold on the library was not moving fast enough. So I bought copy number two on Libro FM, and the title of book number two is Apprentice to the Villain. And I can just say that it's just as good as the first one. It's just as hilarious as the first one. I still love all the characters. I still like, I still really like a lot of things. And I did see coming a few of the plot twists and things in both books 2 and 3, but that did not diminish my enjoyment of them in any way. Love everything, and I actually absolutely love the evolution of the characters, not just the two main characters, but also it has a very compelling cast of side characters all around. The healer, uh, what was her name? I forgot the name of the healer. I will probably put it on the screen. There's Becky, which is the grumpy HR and kind of stuff. If you can believe it, the villain has an HR person in his castle. And there is a quite chaotic and slightly incapable um, creature trainer, dragon trainer in there as well. Um, Also, really like the guy. I loved Evie's little sister and the siblings of the villain. And listen, it's just a series that you have to read. I absolutely loved and adore all three books. I am painfully agonizing until the release of the fourth book in August, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about these books, and they are magnificent. They are awesome. After that, I moved into a contemporary romance. It's called Passion Project by London Sperry. And this one totally caught me off guard. I was expecting it to be very lighthearted and, um, I don't know, just a quick and easy read. And it is a quick and easy read, actually, but it does go, it does talk about certain things that are not as easy to deal with. There are themes of grief and depression, especially, like those two are really, really big in the book. Well, I haven't even told you what this is about, but this is basically um, about a girl called Bennett, and she lives in New York. This is set in New York. And one of her friends creates a dating profile on an app for her to try to get her to date someone. And she matches with someone, a guy called Henry. But she has a panic attack when they are supposed to have their first date and ends up drunk in the bathroom of the restaurant he works at as a bartender. And they end up meeting on the same day that she actually bails on him because she never showed up on that date. She bails on him, but they end up meeting anyway, and they become friends. She tells him that she doesn't have any um, passions, anything that she is deeply passionate about in her life at all whatsoever. And so he takes as a mission to help her find it. So, as friends, they decide to try new things every Saturday. And, well, it goes from there basically. And I thought that that was going to be really fun, and it was. It was also very funny in places. I love the banter between them, and it was a really good read, but it was a lot deeper than I was anticipating. And with both the themes of grief and depression, and also there is a parent in this book that has dementia that kind of triggered my own buttons, certain situations that are very delicate in my personal life. So it hit me hard, but it was a really good book. It really was. Um, Definitely recommended, but now going in, that it does touch on some very delicate things. Then I moved on to The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. This is a series by Megan Bannon. So far, I don't know if that is going to be the totality of the books, but so far there are three. I read books one and two, and I recently just borrowed the third one from my library, but I haven't started it yet. These, however, was absolutely fantastic. It kind of competed with this one for my favorite of the month. It was very hard for me to find a favorite for me to choose a favorite this month because they were just amazing. This is kind of a well, it's a fantasy book, really. It's based in a group of islands. They call it the Confederate Islands, and it has an incredible background, an incredible mythology to it, because there are gods and there are demigods, although this is not based on any traditional mythology that we know about, but it has its own mythology, it has its own gods and everything, so it's nothing like the ones that we're used to. And in this world, the old gods had to be imprisoned by the new gods, and so they created a somewhat mm, not sure how to call it, but it's kind of a pocket in the world that kind of takes them to a different dimension or something like that. They created this pocket, this little world that was meant to be a prison for these gods. That's called Tanria. And after the old gods passed away and they basically decided to retire as stars in the sky and all of that, the world of Tandria ended up mostly empty. And 25 years before the book takes place, someone invented a portal to let people go into the world of Tandria, now free of gods. And, well, a lot of shenanigans take place. At some point, they they have some sort of zombies that come into existence. They call them grubs, and you can kind of imagine where these goes, but it's kind of a contemporary fantasy somewhat, and it's basically great. So the book is told in two different points of view. You have Hart, which is a Tandrian marshal, because, thanks to the sort of zombies, they needed sort of law enforcement, someone to protect the civilians from the grubs. And so the Tandrian marshals were born. And Hart, I forgot his last name. My memory is not what it used to be. Sorry. I think it's something like Roslyn or something like that. But he becomes a Tanrian marshal. He goes into Tanria, patrolling the area and getting rid of grubs and all that jazz. He's a demigod. He doesn't know who his godparent is. His mom has been dead for some years, and he's basically alone and friendless in this world. And the other main character is Mercy Birdsall. She is the daughter of the undertaking of the town of Eternity. And she is struggling because her dad wants to retire, and he also had a heart attack and now has to be taking care of his health. Her mother is dead, and her brother, who is supposed to take over the undertaking business, actually doesn't really like it. and he doesn't actually want to take over the business. So she alone has been keeping everything um, from drowning, from going to shit. And for some reason, Heart and Mercy ended up randomly hating each other the day that they met. And so this is kind of a enemies to lovers kind of story. It has a little bit of um, cowboy. Um, what's kind of the genre? The Wild West kind of vibe. It has a little bit of a Wild West kind of vibe, and the narrators in the audiobook kind of do these American Southern accents and stuff. So it's very different from anything that I have read, and it was just really good. Everything about it was really really good. Love the writing, loved the twists, loved the world building, loved the characters and the chemistry and the arc on that. It was really really good. Seriously, the between these two, I kind of chose this one as my favorite of the month, but I keep going back and forth because amazing. Like, I just loved it. It was so good. Then, while I was waiting for the second book in this series to be available from the library, I read Nine Goblins by T. Kingfisher. I started reading her books last year and got completely obsessed because they're just so freaking good. And this one is basically a novella. It's very short and is not particularly connected to any of her other books and universes. It kind of exists on its own. It's a standalone, but it was really charming. It's a story about nine goblins. In this world, the goblins are basically fighting a war against the humans. And this particular group of goblins, that are obviously nine, they get transported from the place where they are fighting this war into enemy territory. And so this is basically the story of them trying to find their way home. And I loved the way that T. Kingfisher basically described the goblins. It was absolutely fantastic. This is deeply hilarious. I find that her books are all hilarious, but this one was just great. And despite being even a little disgusting, these goblins are such good characters. They're great characters, and it was very easy not just to sympathize with them throughout the novel, but also to root for them, to care for them. It was fantastic. I loved the Sergeant Nasilka. I loved the guy that had a teddy bear glued to his helmet. And he basically talked through the bear, which is a little bit autistic coded, in my opinion, which genius. And there is even an elf, a veterinarian elf called Sings to Trees. And his whole thing, the I mean, even the first time we meet the guy, he is helping a unicorn give birth to her fowl. And it is absolutely hilarious because this baby unicorn was not in the right position for birth. So he has his arm shoved all the way up the unicorn's, you know what, trying to turn it so, you know, that baby unicorn can be birthed. So it does go into those levels of hilarity, and I loved it. It was an amazing read. It still touched some delicate themes as well, especially colonization. That was there. There was also some racism, um, xenophobia, these kind of stuff. There was a lot of that in there, prejudice and all these kinds of themes, but they don't take over the story. The story is just wholesome and hilarious, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a very enjoyable read, honestly. And then it was time to jump into book number two of East World, and this is The Undermining of Twyla and Frank. And even though these are part of a series, they are also standalone books. I do recommend reading them in order because there are things in that happen in book one. What happens, the story that takes place in book one does inform what happens in this world, in the universe, in book two. But the main characters are different. So, because of these, I'm not going to talk so much about um, what happens story wise in the second book, just so I don't give you any spoilers. But I will talk about the characters in this book. This was quite different. Heart and Mercy are kind of in their 30s, mid and early 30s. Twyla and Frank are actually on their mid 50s. So it was a completely different point of view from the first two characters, and I still find it just as good and even refreshing to have such a different point of view. They are, of course, based in the same world, so it was still a fantasy novel with this deep, rich lore and world building. But the protagonists are far older people. Twyla and Frank have been best friends for about 12 years. When she was married and raising her children, well, when both of them were married and raising their children. But it's been a few years since that, and she became a widow, and her children are now grown and leaving the nest and building their own lives. Some have their own children, and he was actually left by his wife. And his children doesn't live with him and stuff like that. They are grown though as well. They grew up alongside Twyla's children because they were next door neighbors. They have been next door neighbors for many, many years. And after they found themselves single, they became best friends. And they both are part of the Tanrian Marshals. They have a plan. They have a retirement plan. They have they have their story, and they are the type of friends that everyone thinks that they are together, but they're really not. And so there is a lot going on there because of the different age brackets for the main characters. You get very different background stories and very different um, interactions in between them. There are also a number of themes that get touched, talked about in here, from the difficulties of married life, the expectations that even grown children have on their mothers. I mean, there is not a lot that I can talk about without giving spoilers, but it was really great. I think that my favorite is still the first one because I relate a lot more to the characters, but I enjoy this one just as much, and I appreciate the different point of view, those different stories. They are a little bit spicy, which is not necessarily my favorite, but I find that when done right, I actually enjoy those scenes, those parts more than I ever thought I would. And particularly in here, that are hilarious spicy scenes. Like, I cackled out loud. Probably my neighbors heard me. It was a thing. It's really good. Okay? I cannot wait to jump into book three, but 5 stars for both. Love them. Highly recommend that series. Oh, and I forgot to mention that on this book, is basically all from Twyla's perspective, whereas this one we have both Heart and Mercy. But in this one is basically just Twyla. And my last book of February was a young adult contemporary romance called Last Chance Books. Yeah, this is by Kelsey Rodkey, and this has been on my TBR for a couple years. It's no longer available on my library, so I bought it on Libro FM, and well, I finally got to it. This is the story of a girl. I seem to have completely forgotten her name for some reason. I might remember it as I'm speaking, but yeah. This is the story of this girl. She works in a bookstore that belongs to her aunt, and said bookstore is kind of struggling to stay alive. You know, with chain bookstores and online shopping, places like Amazon and all of that, that indie bookstore is really struggling to stay in business. And then we have Jasper Hamada, which is a Japanese American boy that he works on a chain bookstore called Prologue that opens across the street from their bookstore, which is called Books and More. But yeah, he is the boy across the street. And of course, there is a certain rivalry between them because, um, she is all up in her feels because her family's bookstore is struggling and she loves that bookstore. She's worked at that bookstore for many years and she's always wanted to inherit it from her auntie at some point. There is not a lot that I can say without giving spoilers to anyone, but I think it was definitely my least favorite book of the month, and I think it was kind of a disappointment. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't know if it's because it's YA, although I read a lot of YA and it doesn't necessarily always get this way, but I found her to be extremely dramatic, very bratty, and I spent a lot of that book, I don't know, face palming. Her behavior throughout the whole thing was just very childish, very immature, very. I mean, I can get it. I too was a teenager and I'm a Leo rising, so we both know that I can be dramatic. I can be very dramatic. I know that. I love that little meme that comes up sometimes, like, I'll get over it. I just need to be dramatic first and that kind of stuff. I get it. I really do. But it was painful to read a lot of these novels because of it. And so, I don't know. It just wasn't all that enjoyable for me. So, that was probably my biggest disappointment of the month, to say the least. And we're gonna leave it at that for my books, the books that I read. Let me know in the comments if you guys have read any of these books, if you like them. I would love to chat with you about them. And now it's time for me to show you my crafts. So, the first thing that I did was a crochet Bridget's cross. I mentioned these on my January wrap up video because I was already working on it when I filmed that video. And well, we all know about the tradition of crafting Bridget's crosses for in bulk. And I just I live in London. This is a urban metropolis. So the traditional I forgot the name of these things. How are they called? Brain fog. It's real, people. I'll put it on the screen. But the traditional natural materials that are used to make these crosses don't grow anywhere near me. And there isn't anything that I've seen that could actually replace that material. Of course, I could try and buy it online, but I don't know. It's between. Uh, well, let's just say that there's a cost of living crisis, and instead, over the last couple years, I have found crafty ways of making my own Bridget's crosses for in bulk. These one I made last year, and as you can see, it's made of paper, tissue paper to be more precise. This was from an order that I placed for something else, and it came wrapped in these gorgeous forest green tissue paper. And so I cut it in pieces and rolled up. Yeah, just rolled it up in cylinders and then braided them like the cross. And I tied the ends with this purple ribbon that I had. I've had it with me since in bulk last year. And for this year's cross, I decided to try crochet. I've did a little bit of a Google because I wanted to see if a pattern of some kind actually existed somewhere that I could buy and follow to try it, but I couldn't find anything like that. I saw a picture of a keychain that it's being sold on Etsy, if I remember correctly. I will put a picture on the screen, but that was not exactly what I wanted. I wanted the feeling of braiding the cross um, the traditional way. So instead, I Googled how to crochet kind of cylinders. I think that these ones are called something that I will put on the screen for fuck's sake. Sorry, guys, it's late in the evening and my brain has decided it's not going to work properly. So, anyways, um, I just Google how to crochet these little cylinders, and I found someone that does amigurumis and had this tutorial. And so crocheted, whatever the past tense of that is, a bunch of these in these gorgeous forest green yarn that I had. This is just acrylic yarn, nothing fancy. So yeah, I just crochet a bunch of these and then I wove them in the way that you do a Bridget's cross and tie them up with white yarn in here. And so this is my crafty Bridget's cross for this year. And it's not nowhere near perfect. I'm actually kind of new at doing crochet. I'm proficient in basic granny squares, but that's it. And I did my first amigurumi with a kid is a gnome with a Christmas tree hat in December. But I'm a newbie at these, so I would say that it's not too shabby. I quite like it. It's not super sturdy, but it's, I don't know, it's just good. And I do believe in art, witchcraft, and how crafts and things can be made in devotion to your deities, to your ancestors, to your guides, and all of that. So, this was my act of devotion for Bridget this year, and I would say that even though it's nowhere near perfect, I'm actually proud of it. And the last craft that I have been working on in February is not yet finished, so I might show a finished version on my March wrap up is an embroidery kit. This is of the star card. I did my very first embroidery blah, in December as well, and I actually quite loved it. And so I looked into patterns and things that were around tarot cards, and I found this one from this company. It's called the Seductive Stitch. They are a small UK business. You have their details in here, including their website. And she has these little kits for some cards on her website. So far, I've seen the star, the moon, the sun, the empress, the lovers, and I think that's it for now. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope that she'll eventually do the whole Mayor Arcana. And if not, after I'm done with the available sets, I might have a go at creating my own. But the star is my favorite tarot card, so of course I needed to start with this one. You can buy a kit that brings all the materials to do it the way that she designed it, exactly like you see here. Or you can buy what I bought, which is just the printed fabric, and it comes with this guide. It shows you here what she designed it to be like. And in the back, you get all the different instructions with all the stitches that you are supposed to do um, in all the places. It also comes with this little booklet that basically gives you a how to, and it shows you a bunch of different stitches. So this has been actually really good for beginner me. Um, but yeah, is absolutely fantastic. This kit was actually very reasonably priced, and it does. If you buy the one that doesn't have all the materials, it does require you to have your own. And this is mine. Don't be too harsh to judge here because um, this is only my second embroidery. So I'm not an expert at these or anything. And if you have seen many of my previous videos, then you probably know that I'm kind of a magpie. I'm definitely a dragon. I like to collect all things shiny. So instead of keeping it simple, like you see here, in the way that this is supposed to be, I had to make it colorful because I am a colorful bitch. And I had to make it a lot more complicated than it is. And I just went crazy with sequins and with little beads everywhere. I'm not sure if you can see this here. So I have shiny thread and shiny sequins everywhere. I'm not sure that the camera is actually capturing these properly, but yes, this is my go at these. So is very far from perfect, but I'm proud of where I'm at. I'm not completely finished. As you can see, I'm working on a background here, which is kind of important to me because she got the Roman numeral here wrong. And I decided to fix it myself here. But because this is printed fabric, these Roman numerals are actually printed in the back of these. So unless I create a background for it, they're going to be visible. So I can't leave that part blank, and also I don't like to leave that blank when everything else is so filled up and colorful. However, this progress that I actually made last night is not looking great to me, so I might cut that up and try something different um, to finish that up. And also, the title will be more visible as well. So, this part, the background, I'm definitely going to redo So you'll definitely see a different background on my March wrap up, and I made the clouds with beads, and so they have that raised texture, and I'm just in love with embroidery. I bought the moon one to do to work on during March, so yeah, that is going to be a lot of fun, and I wanted to show you these. So I hope you like them. Now let's do the decks that I worked with during this month. And at the beginning of the month, I worked with these set of triplets. I always do triple decks for my daily pulls. I mentioned on my January wrap up that this year, because I've completely given up on doing bedtime pulls because that just doesn't work for me. And I was trying to use the Seasons of the Witch for a bedtime pull, but since I'm not forcing myself into that anymore, I was going to try and do it. The third book on my set would always be A Seasons of the Witch, which naturally for the month of February had to be in bulk. I've been working with it since the end of January, and I continue to use it for all of February. On the 1st of March, I actually swapped to the Ostara Oracle, but for February, it was all in bulk. I paired it with the Tarot Landscapes, which is a mass market production from Vivida. And I really like this deck. And of course, I had to use the Gaia Lessons from the Earth Oracle. I have the first edition that I backed on Kickstarter. And it comes in a tuck box, which is definitely not my favorite. And I was trying to talk myself out of buying the new edition because it has the magnetic clamshell type of box that I really like. And, I said to myself, those are indie prices. I should not be buying a whole ass edition of a deck that I already have just because of the box. But I could see on the listing that the cardstock is also different, and that is um, a bigger selling point because this one is very thin, which makes for nice shuffling, but also it's not that easy either. However, I did super enjoy these combo, especially these two together. They are wonderful. I find that the Tarot Landscapes is one of these decks that I wouldn't use for other people. They are a bit big for my hands, not particularly easy to shuffle, and the cardstock kind of warps a little bit. But I love that deck. I love the art on that deck, and I love how it forces you to sit with the card and to dig deeper. Because it's not your typical RWS. It forces you to see beyond what we are used to, what is traditional for tarot, and I love to work with it myself. I really do. It's definitely not a deck that I would use for others because of these, but for me, and especially in combination with the Gaia Oracle, I found it to be fantastic. This deck, you also need the guidebook. You cannot use it without, at least not myself. um, but it's just the most beautiful oracle. And they did provide me with a calm sort of energy and a connection to nature, because living in the present is becoming increasingly difficult with all the crazy shit that's happening everywhere. A little look at the news and that ruins the whole day for me. And yeah, it's difficult. So this has been so good for me during the month of February, to center me, to ground me, to take me away from the horrors for a little bit and give me an energy of peace and um, calm. I don't know. It has been good. And despite the art styles being completely different, especially the Seasons of the Witch, I find that they went together really well. They worked together really well, and they were beautiful. They achieved what other things could not, to make me slow down, to stop, take some time, and not panic. So I do think that I will eventually buy the bullet and get myself a nicer second edition of the Gaia Oracle, because it's been wonderful. And then I wanted a different vibe. So after the Lunar New Year, halfway through the month, I changed my decks to these ones, which are the same ones that I'm working with at the moment. So we have the Chinese Five Elements Oracle. This is um, by Biki Iskandar, and the illustrations are by Candice Soon. Um, we have it here. And this one is the Floating World Tarot. And I don't have the guidebook. This comes in a big box. Same publisher as the Cats Rule the Earth Tarot. So it comes in a big box with a bigger guide, a big guidebook and stuff. I don't keep the guidebook in the bag. And so, yeah, this was also one of these two was one of the combinations that I used to read on my second channel. And I loved it so much that after the lunar new year came by, I felt the need to work with it personally. This is a beautiful, not just Japanese folklore, but the illustrator of this deck is also Japanese. And I have struggled. Why is this upside down? Ugh, I did a mess when shuffling it. Um, I struggled to find some Japanese inspired decks that actually go well with my preferences, my aesthetic, until I found this one. I love how whimsical it is, I love how colorful it is, and they go together beautifully, even though the illustration styles are completely different. And I find that this oracle is kind of a good bridge between these two decks, because these two really have nothing to do with each other. But the oracle did well into mixing things in a way that they were acceptable. Not necessarily preferable, but definitely acceptable. I do enjoy the guidebook of these Chinese Five Elements Oracle. Vicky Iskandar is actually really well versed into Chinese astrology. So she explains really well on the guidebook, um, not just how Chinese astrology works, but how the elements combine, how all the things mix together rather nicely. And I find it to be a very enjoyable combo. I really do. I made a mess when I was shuffling these last. But yes, this has been a lovely, lovely combo here, bringing a lot of color and joy into my uh, table. These decks, I do like them, but I find that they are very dark in colors and themes. And even the Ostara one, that's meant to be spring and bring all the colors, all that kind of stuff, it is still very brown, very dark, um, which is really not my favorite. They are all very, I don't know, for being a Taurus and an earthy sign, I just don't really like earthy colors. I prefer bright and vibrant colors. But yeah, that is one thing that I would change about these decks. If I could, I would make them more colorful. And that's going to be a little bit of a struggle for me throughout the year because I do have very many colorful decks in my collection. So it's going to be a bit difficult um, for these combinations to work well throughout the year with the Seasons of the Witch. So we'll see how that pans out. Also, with the Chinese Five Elements and the Floating Worlds Tarot, I use this little one, the Maneki Neko Oracle and Playing Cards, for my February monthly reading in my second channel. I have another set of cards like these. I got mine from Oneness Emporium, and the other set that I have are themed around fairies. And these are playing cards. Love the size. These are the backs. Absolutely love them. And they all have a title here and a message at the bottom. So you have the Eight of Hearts, and it's called the Path of Compassion. And at the bottom, it says, Kindness opens unexpected doors. A loving gesture will be returned. And all the cards are this way. So even though they are playing cards, the court cards all have kitties on them, which I love and adore. Um, but despite them being playing cards, also the aces have kitties and the jokers. Um, and I'm not really proficient on cartomancy. I have a couple books about it, and I watch a couple Danny Mystic videos about it, but I haven't properly studied that myself. I am partly through a Marseille study with a couple of my friends, but other than that, I haven't really studied cartomancy at all. But because they are also an oracle, they have their own messages and titles on each and every one of them. I can still use them as oracle cards, and I love that. And hopefully, in the future, I will have time to properly study cartomancy, and then I can use them in that way as well. But they are still workable in that sense. And another couple of decks that I used for readings in my other channel is the Final Rose Tarot and the Killig Oracle. These are both indie decks. This one is by Monica Ann and is still available. You can get it on her Etsy. I backed it on Kickstarter, but you can get it on her Etsy. And this one, if I am not mistaken, is actually out of print. So sorry about that, but it's still a beautiful deck. I'm not sure. The creators are Amelia Rose and Lindsay Millen. Um, but I still want to show it because it's very beautiful and it's still part of my collection. So I definitely want to use it. And I did a Love Life themed reading on my second channel in honor of Valentine's Day. These are the backs, and they are very beautiful, both of them. So I used both of these decks because both are actually, well, this one is themed around The Bachelor. Sorry, gonna have a little drink of water. And even though I don't really care for the show anymore, I love the art, I love the colors, and I find that it is a really good reader. It really was. It's cheeky and very straightforward. It was really good for relationships. This one is a collage deck, and the aesthetics is basically 90s and early 2000s teenager kind of stuff. And it makes that part of me very happy, my inner teenager very happy, because I was a teenager in the early 2000s. So it has all of that aesthetic. I mean, look at the windows here, the computer windows, like totally. Um, it does make that part of me very happy. And it's also very complete. You even have um, shadowy keywords, shadowy cards. It's very well balanced. So they're just really really good. And I loved reading with them. I found that the messages were coming loud and clear, and yeah, they're just really good readers. Even if aesthetically they don't exactly pair perfectly with each other, they are both perfect to read for relationships, and not just romantic relationships, although that was the theme of the reading that I did. But I can definitely see this working for all kinds of relationships, actually. So, yeah, it's telling me that I'm right. Both of them here. We have the front runner. Yes. Last but not least, let me show you my deck haul, the decks that I got in the month of February. The first one is this one. I'm not really sure what the official name is because it doesn't have any titles, anything. This is from Gearbox, and it came in a box from a video game. I think the video game is called Borderlands. It still comes in these beautiful clamshell magnetic box, and the quality of the deck is actually gorgeous. It has these matte gold foil edges. The cardstock is fantastic. The backs look just like the box. And this is all based around a video game. I'm not an expert at this. I got it because I love the art. I love these um, a stained glass window kind of aesthetic. And the stained glass window tarot is that's commonly available. I love this Empress card. I mean, come on, it's a unicorn. Yeah, that deck that is readily available is made with AI, and I am completely and totally and unreversibly against AI in every way, shape, and form, especially generative AI. So when I saw this one, and it's definitely illustrated by a human, even though there are zero credits anywhere, it doesn't have a title, it doesn't have a guidebook, it's just these. But the art is fantastic. Look at that. This is a guy playing a guitar, and he looks badass. So I jumped on it. It was at a great price, especially for being a limited edition deck. Love this Wheel of Fortune. Come on, a D20. You know that I had to. It's absolutely gorgeous. And now I'm curious about the game. I'm curious about the lore. If you know anything about this, then do let me know in the comments. What do you think about the game? What do you think about the deck? Anything, because I genuinely know nothing about it. But this is fantastic, and it was brand new, and it also was cheap, and I really enjoy it. So since I'm almost done with the majors, let me show you all the majors. I haven't worked with it yet, as you can see. Look at this guy with butterfly wings as the star. This is interesting, this moon card. Love the sun card. I'm pretty sure this character was in a previous card. The Aeon instead of Judgment, very tough. And the universe as well. And I love that castle. I love the bunny. And it's gorgeous. This, however, is a Pipish deck. The ones are all these, um, magic ones with blue backgrounds. And the court cards are also all the same, just the symbol here changes. And that's another thing that I don't particularly like about this deck, because all the pages, all the knights, queens, and kings all look the same on every suit. Just the colors and the symbol changes. So, yeah. We have discs. So, yeah, maybe this is very toughy. These have a green background, and here you can see again the court cards with basically the same characters as the suit of wands. The cups have a pink background. I would have used the blue and put the pink on the other, but you know. And they are these pints, these, I forgot the name, but yeah, just these glasses. The cords all look the same, and the swords are purple. And they are, thankfully, swords. Yeah. See? And they are, again, all the same. But I love the art. It is practically brand new. I can tell that no one has ever worked with these. And since I am going to get more comfortable reading pips with my Marseille study, I thought, why not? Speaking about Toth, I found this deck on TK Maxx. This is the Aleister Crowley Tarot, and it's definitely based on the traditional Toth. But this one here is actually mass market, and it has a much more modern art style. I don't know what it is about me and traditional art styles. Let me know if I should do a walkthrough of this deck. But I completely tend to not be drawn to any traditional art style deck. I'm not drawn to the RWS. I'm not drawn to traditional Marseille. I definitely don't care for Toth. And this is my only Toth deck. These are the backs. But yeah, I do love the art though. I really do. And I like these a lot more than the traditional Toth deck. This art style is very reminiscent of Yoshi Yoshitani and the Tarot of the Divine, although I checked and the artist is not the same. I can't remember her name, but it's not on the box. I had to dig into the guidebook to find it. Don't like that. But yeah, this is a Toth deck, which I think is going to be part of my deck and walk. I'm trying to convince my friends to do a deck and walk together. But now I have a Toth deck for that. And if I ever do decide to read or to learn, actually, the Toth system, which never say never, I thought I would never give in to Marseille, and look at me, then I already have this deck. And I like that. I like that very much. I love this illustration style a lot more than the traditional Toth. The colors and everything, um, I do find it to be great. Let me know if you'd like to see a walkthrough of this deck in the comments. But this is actually brand new. It's the very last one that I got last month. So I haven't actually worked with it yet. This one is actually one that I got in January, but I forgot to mention it when I was filming my January wrap up. This is the Cottage Magic Tarot by Anne Shen, and this is published by Clarkson Potters. I have a whole walkthrough of this deck on my channel. If you want to see it, I have actually trimmed my copy. And yes, the backs are not even. So if you do decide to trim the deck, just know that the backs will be a little different. It does come with an extra card that's blank on the other side, and I kept that like full size without trimming, so you can see the difference here in the backs. And yeah, if you do decide to trim the deck, there will be that as well. I not only trimmed the borders on the sides and on the top, but I also trimmed a bit on the bottom to reduce the amount of white space and to make these line a little smaller. So yeah, and now this deck is much more easy for me to handle with my little hands. I love the art. I've enjoyed looking at it. I was thinking of working with it through March, but I think it's more of an April kind of vibe. I have a little bit of an idea of some of the decks that I want to use through March, and they are a completely different vibe than these. I love the art by An Shen, and I definitely cannot wait to work with these decks. Another deck that I got and that I also have a whole walkthrough of in my channel, and I also trimmed it, is the Lonely Planets Travel Tarot. This is an independent publication by Lonely Planet. It's distributed by Hachette in the UK, and it's created by Jeff Hinshaw, and the art is by Studio Muti. And this was a deck that I knew I had to get the moment that I saw it. Again, I trimmed my copy. If you want to see the full size deck, then you can have a look at my walkthrough. I did use the borders on the back mostly as a guiding line to do the trimming. Although the bottom here, if I just used the borders that it previously had, it left a line of the background on the bottom that was very thin, and that bothered me. So I cut that off, and so it is a little bit shorter in the back than it is at the top, but it's barely noticeable, and I really like it. These to me has a very similar vibe as the tarot landscapes that I showed you before. It's basically based on destinations around the world, and so it does have a very natural vibe and focus to it. However, this one has more people in it and more human made structures in it instead of the all natural or mostly natural landscapes that the tarot landscapes has. But I do feel like this is going to be one of those decks that I use only for myself and not really for other people. It includes some traditions of different cultures all over the world. And I do love that we have my country. One card for my country, the first that I've seen ever. Like, amazing, love it. Look at this, Google it. The Relámpagos de Catatumbo. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Google it so you can see videos of this natural phenomenon. Amazing. But yeah, this deck, I can see it being just for me, not for reading for other people at all. And to just sit with it, to see the messages, and even, when I'm feeling wanderlust, when I'm feeling like I want to escape the corner of the world that I find myself at any given point, then these can take me places. And I love that about it. Even though I trimmed it, this is still huge, but it's definitely more manageable for me and my tiny hands. I also found this one on Vinted, a used copy of the Comfy Cozy Witch Oracle. This is by Jeannie Blondie and published by Sterling Ethos. I love all things comfy and cozy. I love all things witch, and this one, I knew that I wanted it from the moment that I saw it. It has a format that I really like with a title and some keywords. I love the flowers at the corners. I love the backs. Look at this beauty. It's just too gorgeous. And I think that this is the deck that I'm going to be pairing with the Cottage Magic Tarot when it comes the time to work with it in April. I haven't seen this one on any official retailer in the UK so far, so I was surprised to find it on Vinted. I refuse to buy from Amazon for the most part these days unless I really have no other option. So probably that's where the first owner got it from, but I'm glad that I found it secondhand, and this is almost brand new. I can tell that the person who owned it first barely worked with it and is almost brand new. And the last deck that I got in the month of February is this Rosebell Oracle. This is by Dreamy Druzy Studio in Etsy, and this is a genuine copy. Mine is number 468. This is inspired by the Oracle Berlin cards, but done in a way that is more romantic, and it's just really beautiful. I have the first edition. The edition that is currently available on Etsy does not look the same. However, I was able to get these cards from Vinted as well for a really great price, and I love the aesthetics of them. They are little, like playing cards, so about bridge size. They are linen cardstock and have gold foil edges, and they're really beautiful. These are based, like it says in the box, on the Oracle Berlin, which I am not familiar with. But again, this is something that I can learn at some point. And given the titles and the planetary associations, I could probably use this without a guidebook. And that's where the disappointing part of these purchase comes in, because the the person who sold this to me had a black and white printed guidebook, and when I went to pick up my order, it came in a huge box. Whenever, this is actually very little. And I forgot that there was a guidebook that was supposed to come in that box, and I just took this little box out and threw it away. And so I was left without the guidebook. I contacted the seller, and the seller said that they no longer have the file, that I should contact the creator or someone else, in a video or something. They would have the QR code or whatever for the guidebook. And so I contacted the seller. The seller was actually very rude. I think that she was not very happy that I bought it secondhand instead of buying directly from her. And even though I provided proof that the deck is genuine, she said that the guidebook was a complimentary gift for the people who bought directly from her, so she wasn't going to send that file to me. And I've seen every video of this deck that it's available on YouTube, and no one is showing any way of downloading the guidebook. And I get it, because I had some people also leave me some comments on walkthroughs of decks that have been highly pirated, and they want me to share the guidebook and stuff, and I don't like doing that. But I do have a genuine deck. I did my research and made sure that this is a genuine deck, but I have not been able to get a hold of the guidebook for it. And this is not a system that I'm familiar with. So it has been very disappointing, the experience. I was not expecting to be treated that way by the creator. The seller also doesn't give a fuck, and I don't know um, how else I could get a hold of the guidebook. So this is probably not going to make an appearance on my reading desk for a while, except perhaps these cards. It comes with the zodiac cards, and I love the illustration style. It's really beautiful. So if any of you have this deck and wouldn't mind to share the file of the guidebook with me, or if you know someone that might help me, I would really appreciate it, because that experience has really tainted um, the purchase of this deck for me. But I still love it and I want to use it, and well, I hope that I can change that at some point. And well, I've been talking for long enough. I won't keep you here for more time. I hope that you've enjoyed to see the things that I have been up to in the month of February. Let me know if you have read any of the books and what you thought about them. I'm open to chat about the books if you would like to. Um, I hope that you enjoyed my crafts and maybe that they will inspire you to do something like that on your own. And also the decks. Let me know which decks you used during the month of February, if you like my pairings and my combinations, and what do you think of the decks that I got for myself this month? But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you sat until the end of the video, you're a true one, you're a real one. I think that's the expression, sorry. English is not my first language, but I'm getting on. Um, but yeah, you're a real one. Thank you. Please do like and subscribe if you would like to see more content from me. I love to see people in the comments. I really appreciate that, and I always try to reply whenever possible. And I do have a second channel where I read the cards for people. It's called Guided by Your North Star, and I upload readings there whenever I can. So, yeah, I would love to see you there as well. In the meantime, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.